I'm Ricardo Sierra, and recently I did a summit of interviews with people from all backgrounds of nature education and nature connection. And what I tried to do was interview these people and basically come up with what things they're seeing out in the world around our communities, disconnect to nature, and to kind of try to find out what can we do to change our our future, because we know that more and more people are being disconnected, where our feet aren't connected to the soil. We're not connected practically to the earth. We're not connected in a really grounded way. Our culture isn't, and so therefore our culture, our government, our businesses, we make decisions not based on kind of those old natural law based approaches, and we end up approaching things with a skewed or false sense of, you know, a false sense of security that things are just going to work out or things will be okay or whatever. We can grow ourselves into the future, into the war, into the, you know, 30,000 or whatever, and we're going to just make it. So anyway, I did the summit and I talked to a lot of different people. I talked to 29 different experts, and many of you have listened to this as part of the Wolverine Way Summit. You've listened to some of the interviews. A lot of people have said that they serve to be inspiring in different ways, and they as the summit wound down, people were saying to me, well, what's next, Rick? Like, well, is that it? Or when is your next summit? What's happening? And the summit took me a long time to do, so it wasn't meant to be followed by endless interviews, unfortunately. That would be fun, but and I learn a lot by doing that, and I'm going to be doing a video series of videos of things that I did learn, specifically that I want to take away, that I want to share. So I'll be doing some videos about that as well. But what I wanted to say more importantly is about, in this video, is about phase two. What is phase two? Now, so phase one was really to say, what are you guys seeing out there, experts? What are you guys, what tools are working? What tools aren't? Are we ready to keep going? What does our field need to do? Just to kind of get that background. And that's what we did. But now there's a circle of people, a community of people who have signed up for this summit, who are obviously passionate about working with nature and nature connection, and they're concerned, and they're maybe worried or upset, and there's nothing like watching your kids or watching your grandkids or watching the kids down the street, or even just people in general just feeling lonely or feeling depressed or being digitally obsessed, and there's that kind of empty feeling where they're not quite happy, they're kind of bored, they don't really know how to get out of it, they don't know what to do, and that's happening at a massive scale all across the country. Doesn't matter where you go, in a restaurant or whatever, we're going to see people that are digitally connected and still lonely and depressed and not quite engaged. And so phase two kind of is this thing where we're saying, like, okay, let's go beyond what the experts are saying now and say, what are you guys seeing out there? What are you, as members of this community and experts in your own right, by God? I mean, seriously, a lot of people that are listening to these summits are people that have had years of experience themselves teaching stuff to kids, teaching stuff to adults, being connected, being trackers or woods people, like the gardeners or whatever you are, that you guys know what you are out there. But the fact that you're even interested in this stuff, I'm sure you have a lot of skills. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was to have phase two phase one was kind of like, hey everybody, here's what these experts are saying. Come on, or gather around, let's hear what they're saying. Phase two is about saying, okay, we're all gathered around now. It's kind of like being at a big party or a big campfire. Like, okay, so let's all just mingle and, hey, have some chili and, have a glass of whatever your favorite thing is to drink, and let's just all talk about what we're excited about, what we're worried about, what we're upset about, and and at the same time as we get to know each other a little bit, find out who's closest to us, who's in our area, and also what can we do? What do we want to do? What is our natural inclination to do to connect our culture and our kids, our families and our communities back to the natural world? And how can we do that? And how can we do that in a practical way that will have a powerful effect? One of the things that I learned about in doing the summit was something that Charles Salin said, who, if you remember that interview, he's been an environmental educator for a long time. And one of the things that he said about education in general is that he said we have to become more results oriented. In other words, if we're not getting the results, if we can't achieve measurable results with what we're doing, then all we're really doing is just feeling good. And we're not going to necessarily have a benchmark to say, did we succeed at what we were trying to make happen? And so, what he's trying to say is that we can't just sort of put some stuff together and hope it's going to be good. We also want to try to measure a little bit about, and be really clear what our objective is. If we're going to take a group of 10th graders out and take them on a hike and do something, I'm not saying we have to change their entire lives in 10 minutes. That's not what I mean. But we can kind of at least have a feeling of what is our objective, and are we going to how are we going to measure whether we met that objective, and so forth. And so there's a lot of discussions that I think this phase 2 is going to bring about. There's going to be probably a lot of heated discussion in some ways, because people are passionate about what they do, and they have good opinions, and they have good experience to back it up. And I think that is going to be really healthy. And so phase 2 is about us getting together, either as around a campfire, which is logistically difficult in a community as big as ours, but maybe digitally we can be around. And how can we communicate what we're passionate about, share best practices, take that inspiration that we got from listening to some of these folks and say, okay, where do we go now? Okay, what can we do? And how can we do that logistically to make it work? Because if we have to kind of delineate between, and this is something that I'm seeing, is that there's a big difference between somebody who's like a kind of an amateur naturalist educator and someone who wants to be a professional. And an amateur is someone that says, hey, I'll take that Boy Scout troop out and do a program on Saturday. I got a full-time job, but I'll just block out my Saturday, come out and help you out. And then you're passionate. You may do a professional job when you teach those kids, but you're not really doing it for the money. You're not really building a business out of it. You're really not going to quit your day job and go do that full-time. Then there's the person that's a professional, someone who's like going to teach classes. They're going to teach a day class. They're going to teach a weekend workshop. They're going to maybe have a small school. They're going to run a homeschooling program, an after-school program. They're going to do whatever they want to do, or whatever they're offering. And so they're going to be important as part of this discussion as well. So we can sort of see how they have their agenda. There's the people that are just kind of like wanting to get out and do this in a amateur. Not amateur kind of denotes something like not good enough in my opinion, which I don't like. So we'll have to change that. But the idea is that how do we get the people that want to do stuff, get them the skills they need to go do it? And if you're going to work at a professional level, how do we help you do it at a professional level so that you can get paid well and that you can then do it sustainably? So one of the themes that phase 2 is about us saying how do we get together and find out who's doing what, who's interested in what, and at the same time also maybe figure out how to have discussions and collaborations, and just begin putting this whole thing together. So I don't know. I might just have to re-record this whole thing. So we'll see if how it works out. Um, but essentially, what I'm trying to say about this phase two is we have to sort of at least begin a dialogue and a discussion that is going to actually matter. It's not going to be just an open-ended, completely um, long, just a conversation about our lives and this kind of open-ended forum where we just discuss details of stuff ad nauseum, forever and ever, and bore everyone to death and never go anywhere. So their idea behind phase two is about saying, if you're serious about doing something and you want to do something and get the tools you need, and you want to be part of this movement, let's open this up to a period of dialogue and set some time frames. So, like, for example, we can say, all right, we're gonna all just form a group. We're gonna have a group that's open to anybody that wants to be in, and this is extremely inclusive. Anybody can be a part of this. It's not a closed group in any way. And so anybody can come in and like meet people and talk and share or whatever. And I'm going to probably make it as like a Wolverine Way Phase Two Facebook group, because a lot of people are on Facebook. I think we got about 1,000 people on our Facebook page, and maybe we can get some of those folks into this big open group. And that open group will be very transparent. Anyone can come in and just share what they want to share, what they got out of the summit, what they're up to, what they're into. And then from there, we can start to kind of build communities around people that want to do similar things. Excuse me. Number two, our phase, kind of as we move from that phase a little deeper into phase two, we can say, all right, let's go into some smaller closed door sessions or groups where we then kind of get in there in the back room and we're kind of like throwing out every option and we're talking really honestly and candidly about what works and what doesn't work. And we're going to say, okay, here's our ideas. And we might not really want to share that with everybody in the world. Some of the things we might share might be proprietary, maybe kind of for people that would agree when they go into that group that whatever's discussed in that group is going to stay in that group. So in other words, if you've got a criticism about how this person teaches this or that, and you say, yeah, this is what I saw, I didn't really like that or whatever, that might not be your professional opinion that you'd say out in the everyday world, because in the long run, we all want to support each other who's doing the right things. But behind closed doors, you want to be able to feel you have the freedom to like sort of discuss and put everything on the table and be really honest. And I think that that's important. If we're dancing around all these little niceties, we're not going to get anywhere. This movement's dead in the water if we don't really kind of take the gloves off and put everything on the table and say, all right, what's wrong with this model? Or how can we improve this? And how can we improve that? And how can we discuss things that might be up till this point considered sacred, like, oh, we can't change that because so and so said that that's the most important thing. And like, I'll go, hey, in this, we have our future and the extinction of the human race is at stake. Everything's on the table. I don't care what it is. This is my opinion. And honestly, I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to be myself through this process. I know that there's some people that probably won't like what I say at times. It's probably going to rub you the wrong way. And none of what I say is meant to hurt anyone, and it's not personal. But at the same time, I've got to be as authentic as I can with you, because our lives and everything are at stake, and I'm trying to be as effective as I can, and I'm trying to make sure that you have the tools you need to get and for us to change, to create change, and to create a world that's better. And we're not going to get there if like we can't discuss this and we can't discuss that. I mean, I'm going to just put it out there. If you don't like that and you want that, I'm totally fine with you doing your thing, and I'm going to support you doing your thing. It doesn't matter. That's one thing I'm going to take away from Derek Jensen's talk, where he just said, we need everything. We need everything. Everybody's doing whatever you're doing. It's awesome. So I'm dropping. I don't have any judgment around that stuff, and I'm like, you go and do your thing. Professionally, I know for me, I have to be able to make a distinction between whether I'm going to, go one way or the other, and that's going to be based on my objectives and on my what I want to see for results. So if I want to see certain results, and I don't think this method or that method is going to be the best way to get me there, I've got to say it. So I prefer to do most of that though in closed doors, because I don't want. It's so easy for people to misconstrue what someone might say. It's like, um, you know, there's stuff that you'd have when you're in process, like in practice, in basketball practice, something like that. You practice stuff, you try stuff, you argue about things, you go back and forth with the coach or whatever. You don't want that to be seen in the middle of a game. In the middle of a game, you want to have you want to be totally focused on winning the game, and you want to let go of that stuff, and you let it ride. But behind closed doors, behind in the boardroom or wherever, in a business setting or in a family or whatever, some stuff you just want to discuss in between, you don't want everybody to know or see it. So I think there's a place for both. And I'm not excluding it. If anybody here says like, "Oh, I want to be part of the group, but I don't want to be, I want it to be transparent," I'll be like, "Hey, you can come into the group and be part of that. You just have to agree to what the group is about." And then as we begin to unveil those parts that we kind of come up with that we like, there'll be a lot of transparency at that point. We'll be able to say, "Hey, everybody, we went behind the scenes for 2 weeks and we came up with these 5 ideas, and we batted everything around. These are our best 5 ideas." We put them out and we say, "What do you guys think of these ideas?" Or maybe we just have one idea or whatever. And then at that point, everybody could then jump in very transparently in an open group and go, "Hey, that sounds awesome," or "We don't like it," or "This is why." And we're totally open to growing and learning and getting the best out of it. So it's not about, we're not talking about closed doors, like, making a secret deal with Enron or Shell Oil or Halliburton, like, "Hey, let's start a war, and then like we'll sell you all the good." This isn't about any of that. That's just, please, when you hear that and you hear transparency, this is not about us coming up with some secret plan that's going to put wilderness schools out of business or anything like that. Like, everything that I do and everything that I'm about is to try to help all of you guys that are wilderness school people and wilderness instructors and educators and families, and it's about trying to help you. So that's what I'm 100% about. And so what I'm saying is that there's a lot of different ways to get there. I'm just going to end this right now, and I'm probably going to think of a couple more things, and I'm going to do another video about phase 2. So just to make this so it isn't a million minutes long. But I will say that phase 2, the reason I don't have a name for phase 2 other than phase 2, which is kind of a lame name in my opinion, is that this phase 2 isn't really about me. I didn't want to call it Wolverine Way. I don't really want to call it anything, because it's not me. I just want to be really, really clear. The summit was me saying I want to give something back and I want to put something out there. And so somebody had to do it, and I did it. But phase 2 is really about you, and it's about us. And so it's not a Hawk Circle thing. It's not a Wolverine Way thing. It doesn't exist in any way except that a concept in my brain that says, how can we be better? How can we reach more people? How can we give people tools? And how do we do that in a way that makes the most sense and is the most helpful? And how do we do it? And then based on what our group maybe wants to do, we will come up with a name in that regard. So this isn't Ricardo Sierra's phase 2. It's your phase 2. And it's meant to help you and help, it's sort of like help me help you, or whatever we get out of this experience, it's going to be completely crowdsourced or open sourced, right? Isn't that what they do with software? I guess I'm not a computer guy, other than I've been on computers a lot, but I guess what I'm saying is like, this is like an open source software. Like, whatever we come out of this, we can then turn around and say, yeah, this is what we came up with, and therefore we're going to make that available. I'm not saying that everything we make available, if somebody decides it's a training and somebody wants to offer that, we may charge for that, because somebody has to get paid if they're putting professional time into that. but the ideas and everything else is going to be out there for people to benefit from. And the idea around this is really key because, this hasn't really been done before. I mean, we have had forums and stuff, but this is a very, very clear, focused objective on how to get this, how to get more useful tools to you, the people in the front lines, and to help your communities. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing about with phase two.